Close enough.
Welcome to episode 2 of
Welcome.
The Bar is Ankle High. I'm Katie.
And I'm Garrett.
And today we're going to talk to you about ADHD and disorganization. Mostly I'm going to talk to you about the facts of it.
This is more Katie's specialty than mine.
My specialty is being disorganized.
Yes.
Thank you. What was the superhero Quail Man where he had the underwear on outside of his pants?
Doug Funny? Yeah. His alter ego was Quail Man. You're right. And he had the belt with the thing on his head to look like a quail. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good
one. So in researching the effects or symptoms of disorganization with ADHD, I found a couple different articles. One of them was talking about like the two different subtypes of ADHD, the inattentive subtype and the hyperactive subtype. Right.
Which we talked about last episode. We covered
that. But it was the article was more or less focusing on the question of executive function deficits in ADHD adults, which is very infrequently studied, but this article basically found that ADHD or executive function deficits were found in both subtypes of ADHD, but adults tend to only suffer from inattentive type ADHD because of how our brains age naturally. So it's a lot easier to mask symptoms of hyperactivity than it is to hide that you're disorganized or inattentive.
Yes.
I think especially, and like not to be that person, but like especially with social media, but like just having smartphones and the idea of just the internet in general, not just social media, but like at any time, my little brain can just be like, hey, how much does a whale's heart weigh? And then I can just Google that.
When she says can, she means she does. She is the queen of, hey, you want to hear this fun fact that usually isn't fun? Frequently, it is dark. As a little bit of context to, you could, she does.
Yeah. That is my specialty. And so anyway, in this one study I was reading, or this article I was reading that examined a study, they found that the executive function domain of your brain was uniquely associated with inattentive disorganization rather than hyperactive impulsivity. The ultimate conclusion of that study was basically like, it's worthwhile to differentiate between the different subtypes in adults because those who had hyperactivity diagnoses as children didn't struggle as much with disorganization and inattentiveness symptoms of ADHD as adults, even though their symptoms of hyperactivity were lessened while aging. Does that make sense?
Right, so as they got older, even though those symptoms improved, they did not have the same tools as the people who were diagnosed younger. The hands-on tools, the organizational tools to keep themselves afloat.
Right, and so then I was reading this other study that was evaluating teenagers with ADHD and their ability to learn organizational tools. And I'll be honest, I feel like the results weren't great. They were uninspiring at best. So there was this one study, and all of these will be linked in our show notes, all of these sources that we discuss in all of our episodes, but this, like, the ultimate conclusion of this study was that the results from organization interventions, like setting up task lists, basically, is how they did it. But that supported a finding of a significant relationship between completing the organization tasks that the study prescribed and a higher GPA.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the study was kind of saying, like, if you can get organized, then you'll be more academically successful.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they did this was like, there were two different ways. One of the ways was they had a kind of like a preparedness checklist. Like, did you put your homework in your book bag the night before and set out your clothing? And did you make an appointment with your teacher for study hall? And like little things like that, that if they said basically it took all of the students on average about 2 months to master the checklist, which mastery was defined as completing all items on this organizing checklist for 3 weeks in a row, which I've heard somewhere else that, like, to form a habit, you have to do it for 21 days straight, or to break a habit,
Right.
you have to not do it for 21 days straight. So it makes sense that that would be their definition of mastery.
Yeah. Got the same guideline.
Right. So they did that, but it was completing 90% of the checklist items for 3 weeks.
Okay.
But still.
Yeah, you said that, and in my head I was like, I would not say that I tend to complete every item. Most.
Yes.
I never
same.
managed to cross everything off. There's always like 1 or 2 things left.
There's a lot of things that if I'm trying to, like, follow a plan or do something specific, it's not that I don't necessarily do those things. I just don't do those things as a separate step, which I think this study didn't account for. Because one of those things that I feel like we do, like you and I do, or at least I do, with having ADHD is like that level of multitasking where, like, I've figured out that, like, if I can go to the grocery store, which is right next to the pharmacy, which is right next to the takeout place that I wanted to get for dinner, I can do all of those things in one trip. And so if it's okay, like for work, I have to print the document and then sign it and then make 12 copies and scan it to myself and then print 12 envelopes. So if I have it printing those 12 copies while it's scanning to me, and then while I'm waiting for those copies to print, I upload my scan to be filed.
Which
like,
I bill to myself as being maximum efficiency.
Well, and I think it is, realistically, rather than standing there waiting for 12 copies to be made and then waiting for 12 envelopes to print and then doing all that. Like,
it's a better use of time. I can get one thing going while I do other things. Get another thing going so that when that thing's done, I have something else that's going. Oh, it's,
Right.
And when it works, it's music.
Yes.
When it doesn't, it is
a gravy train. If I miss something in that series is like...
a domino effect.
When I go home and I'm like, oh, fuck, I didn't file that thing.
Yeah.
I go... to file. Which so far has only happened once in, like, the year and a half I've been doing what I'm doing. But, and it wasn't, like... a devastating thing. It was just, like, annoying.
Right? Right? It wasn't bad.
I'm not fired, right? You haven't heard anything?
I'm not in trouble. Am I?
What rumors have you heard?
Out of curiosity, any, gossip? Anything you've heard? Tidbits?
Hey, gosh. That's cool.
We are just as cool now as we were when we were in middle school.
Just me lurking in the bathroom.
Peeking over the top of cubicles like a groundhog.
Yeah.
Just like eyes on top.
Yeah.
We're very low anxiety, high confidence, not at all insecure.
That's me.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very insecure, but generally low anxiety and extremely detrimentally high confidence.
Yes. Detrimentally
unearned confidence.
Yes.
I would say
100% of the time. Just goes in head first.
Oh, always.
I'm standing in the background like, I'm gonna need to let me evaluate this before I.
Yeah, Garrett's my babysitter.
Make any moves.
Garrett's gonna tell the police how I injured myself when they have to.
Yes.
Show up and get me untangled from the power lines or something.
when they inevitably need some kind of stretcher, because Katie was overly confident going into a situation, I will have to be able to relay to them how she injured herself. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So far it's worked out, but I'm pretty sure Yeah. There are some times in college where, like, I woke up the next day with a lot of bruises. And I know one of them was from playing rugby with a bunch of rugby guys.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I didn't play rugby with them. I was just trashed, stole the ball from them at a party and then ended up getting tackled by, like, a 6'6", 300-pound guy who plays rugby.
If any of the rugby players who were involved in this situation hear this episode, please send us an email because I am dying to hear the other interpretation of this story, the other narrative of how this girl showed up, tanked, and broke up their game and stole their ball and then fought them for it.
Well, it wasn't in the middle of the game. They were also at this house party.
Yep. Playing a game. It was a championship, but that it doesn't matter.
It's irrelevant. It's not my fault they had a house party at a rugby field. You can't hold that against me.
What am I supposed to do? Leave it alone? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I am a little bit like a dog in the sense that, like, if you throw a ball, I'm going to chase it.
Yeah.
Unless it's too hot, and I don't want to.
Which would be like my dogs. So some dogs still. I'm sorry, it is humid. I don't do well in the humidity.
Yeah. No, I don't. I'm not built for it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to this study. I hope you guys enjoyed that.
Oh, sorry about that little tangent.
So this study did note that the medicated students, because they...
Okay, so these were the unmedicated we just talked about, which would be...
No, they were all mixed together.
Oh,
but
okay.
they just kept track of who was medicated and who wasn't.
Okay, gotcha. Yep.
Because basically it's just tough to find people who are in the... Like, I think part of the issue with doing these studies is that you have to find people who are in the same social situation. So either, like, they're all in the same school district, so they all have access to the same resources. Generally speaking, if you're in the same school district, you probably are coming from a similar, like, diversity background, or lack thereof, I mean.
Socioeconomic.
Yeah. So the study was pretty limited. I mean, it really wasn't that many students. I want to say, like, no more than 50 total between the two different studies.
I have found a lot of the studies are either small or sparse, or it doesn't seem like there's been a lot done with adults, but I think some of that also is just so many more people being diagnosed in the last few years.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's obviously research forthcoming, but my armchair opinion would be I think there's just not a lot of large comprehensive research right now.
Yeah. And then there's the question of, okay, so are you going to exclude participants who are medicated or exclude participants who are unmedicated?
Right.
And if you're going to allow participants who are medicated, is it just if they're medicated for ADHD, or what about, like, comorbid conditions like anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, whatever? Which medications, and some of those medications can provide some alleviation of ADHD symptoms. So
right.
I think that there's also a struggle in maintaining even a control group in these studies, which I suppose is frequently the case with any human study.
Especially mental health.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the studies that I found in the next episode I'm going to do had a lot to do with rats.
I guess I won't take it personally.
But they did a lot of studies on animals, and I do think that in that sense you can be a little bit more reliable, like that, extrapolating that data is a little bit more reliable because you are able to account for those controls much more easily than you know, kids whose parents are going through a divorce or whose siblings are mean or whatever.
Right.
So in any event, but it found that the medicated students had the hardest time actually mastering the organizational checklist, saying that the students who did not master the list were medicated 71% of the time. which the researchers posited was because they were medicated because their symptoms were more severe, which created a bigger hurdle to them in general to overcome this.
Right, as opposed to medicated or not.
Right. So it was just an interesting, like, side note, I guess, like, be nice to yourself if you're...
Yeah, it's hard enough.
Either way, yeah. But that being said, I found this really great list on attitudemag.com.
Oh, that's the ADD.
Yes.
Yes, amazing resource, by the way. I was on there. I read several articles in the next episode that we'll be doing on poor time management, procrastination, things like that. I was on that a lot. It's a great resource.
Yeah. And so they had this list of ADHD organization strategies. And again, this will be linked in our show notes. But I figured we could go through them and talk about whether or not we think they work for us.
Yeah.
So the first tip they have is to set time limits for decision making.
Oh, for decision making.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
The explanation says, people with ADHD can spend days agonizing over decisions that others make in minutes. And you can speed that process up by setting, like, a time budget.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they say, for example, if you're choosing a summer camp for your child, set a deadline and make the best choice you can by that date. If you're deciding which new phone to buy, pick a price cap and ignore anything that's above that.
Oh, that I do, yeah.
And it says, always identify the most important decision-making factor, whether it's price, convenience, aesthetics, practicality, or something else, and just only focus on that factor when you're making your decision.
Mm-hmm.
Which I feel like I'm pretty good at.
Yeah, I feel like I'm pretty decisive, and I'm pretty good at prioritizing what my goal is, what the most important factor is to me. Making that decision.
I think I was actually talking about this with PK the other day, because I find that I'm very decisive, but...
Which ties into that stellar confidence. I'm doing this, and it's perfect. Deal with it. I'll figure it out later.
But, like, I'll take my time to make the decision, but once my decision is made, there's really no coming back. And I frequently have experienced this, and I can very easily, like, look back in my life and see it happening, particularly in my relationships. If I decide, like, this is not working for me, like, this relationship is going to end. I mean, to the extent you could be like, well, you're manifesting the failure of the relationship. Maybe, or maybe, like, I'm not, because I've decided that I'm done with this person, I'm also not going to be putting up with bullshit or whatever.
I will agree with that. I think of it more like my analogy that when I reflect back on things, it's a switch flipping.
Yes.
And once I have flipped, like, I can't feign any kind of enthusiasm or interest.
Yes.
And for people I have done this to in the past, my bad. I am sorry.
I'm not that sorry.
Can't help it.
I mean, the reason I'm not sorry is because for that switch to flip, I've had to think about it and take the time to really assess my feelings.
Thoughts that were, like, subconscious, not conscious. No. Conscious and subconscious thoughts.
There you go.
Second time's the charm. I think, once I fully realize it, I get kind of the full picture and I get that moment to step back and, whoop, that's not going to work. And it really is, like, once that I make that turn, then...
I think it's because I'm such a rule follower that to me, like, once that decision is made, it's like, that's the rule. Like, the rule is...
I just made it.
I'm not going to put up with whatever lies or bullshit or whatever. Like, whatever that situation is. Like, if I've decided... I don't know. I'm only going to park in this one row of cars at work because of whatever reason. The snow never gets piled up there or something.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's it. That decision has been made.
I have to park here forever.
So, like obviously there's extenuating circumstances, but, like, especially when it comes to interpersonal relationships, I think it's just easy for me to be like, well, as much as somebody can really irritate me, who I've written off, at this point, once I make that decision, it's very easy for me to kind of like water off a duck's back, like just let it roll through.
Right.
And not worry about what they say or do at this point because, like, I've decided that no longer affects me.
Yeah, it seems so straightforward and logical to me, but I'm trying to take a, outside looking in perspective right now, and we do sound like psychopaths. But it's not unfounded.
I was like, please say something after the but. But, episode over.
You're right. Episode
Cue
over.
music.
Cut. Thanks for tuning in. The bar is ankle high because we are psychopaths. Wouldn't that just be, things take a hard left turn? We started talking about ADHD and then diagnosed ourselves as being sociopaths. So
someone had to.
It was going to happen eventually. Why not me? I definitely think, I guess that's unusual for some people. It's just I have always been that way. Like, I could, have a friend that I was like, I just don't know if we're meshing, or somebody that's just disrespectful of boundaries. Because I think I've always been okay at communicating boundaries, finding a way to let somebody know what I'm comfortable with or not comfortable with. And I just, once I make the decision, I'm like, oh, well, they're not a person anymore.
Well, that's definitely way more Dexter Morgan of you than me.
I was just saying I ignore them. You're saying they actually don't exist. I'm also a hobby magician.
Alakazam, bitch!
Oh, you wanted a bunny out of a hat?
Why don't I pull your opinion out of my ass?
Our next podcast is going to be about magic.
Michael Scott is our sponsor, actually.
Yes. We're probably
it's a tax write-off.
We're going to get sued by NBC now. We probably somehow just violated a copyright by saying Michael Scott.
Whatever. All right, well, the second thing on this list.
Oh, lordy. Yep, what's number 2?
Fight the tendency to overcommit.
I heard fight and I was like, yeah! Oh, overcommit.
Yeah. Says, like, adults with ADHD tend to spread themselves too thin.
For sure.
And it's the tip is, for each new commitment you make, give up an old one.
Oh, that's a toughie.
I know that you struggle with this. I don't struggle with this at all. I'll say no to anybody.
I do try and find a balance. I actually mention that in interviews when I'm asked about a weakness. I say that I am very quick to agree to do something without always doing like a temperature check and being like, okay, what's on my plate? What do I have that's coming up? And like kind of assess before I answer. But that is something I'm definitely working on because I don't like being overwhelmed. I also don't like being rushed. So I've gotten better about spreading things out because I used to love to like pile things up in one day and be like, I'm going to do 40 appointments in one day. So I only have to take one day off work. Mm-hmm. And then getting halfway through the day and being like, this is a mistake. I have to sit in this parking lot for an hour and a half because of the way I laid out my day and I don't have time to do anything else, but now I'm stuck here.
Yeah.
How's your experience with that going?
I don't usually... My problem is that I am perfectly comfortable sitting at home in my apartment alone. Mm-hmm. I have no issues. Which is interesting that I'm dating the humanoid equivalent of a golden retriever. Mm-hmm. Who goes to every social function anytime his friends ask him to get together. So,
you're like, do you want? He's like, yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
And not too long ago, it was like 2 or 3 weeks in a row, I'm like just leaving work, and he calls me and he's like, hey, so-and-so wants to get together. I just didn't know if like you'd want to. And it's like a Friday, so like I'm going home. I'm like ready to like pour a glass of wine, just like veg the fuck out, make some chicken nuggets, like live my life. And
that feeling of getting home, putting on something comfortable.
Yes.
And like a show you want to watch with food. It's just like delicious.
And I was like, the one time I was like, yeah, if I had known that was the plan, then I probably would have been fine, but like I'm like I budgeted my social meter to just get me through the
Yes.
workday, not to also take me into the evening, which I do
Yes.
think is interesting that I struggle considering that I'm definitely way more impulsive type
Mm-hmm.
than hyperactive. I struggle with spontaneous. As much as I love being spontaneous, I struggle with spur of the moment plans
Mm-hmm.
because I really value my alone time.
Yeah, I'm good like with 24 hours. If I can
Yes.
have 24 hours so that the night before something, I can lay out whatever I have to lay out or, get things prepared for myself or whatever I have to do. Less than 24 hours notice. I'm
Yeah.
struggling.
I like having just a general idea of what I'm doing that day, not
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to know like exactly what the plan is,
Oh,
but
yeah.
especially like I get dressed for the day, especially on a Friday when we can dress down at the office. I get dressed to last 8 hours. I
Yep.
don't get dressed to last 8 hours, then go to a bar afterwards.
Yeah, I.
And I look like a huge garbage bag on Fridays at work.
It makes me think of all those times that things were advertised as being like perfect for day to night. And I would always be like, "Wow, that doesn't happen for me. I don't know.
Oh,
What
yeah.
who is socializing
As a
regularly after work?"
teenager, Express really convinced me that I'd be going from daytime to nighttime way more often,
I was sold on
and
it.
that somehow they were different dress codes.
Right.
Yeah, anyway. So I don't have a problem with overcommitting, is my point.
Ultimately, all I'm saying is I don't overcommit to Express, and that's the important thing.
Yeah, I wear a lot of jersey knit things now. Thanks, pandemic. Couldn't have done it without you. All my clothes are elastic.
Love it. I did fully abandon underwire in the pandemic. Underwire is dead to me unless I
I've
need to be
basically
dressed up.
made that transition. I do have a couple underwires, but now I have my Yitty bras, and that's all I'm wearing now.
Yeah, I saved the underwire like for a special occasion. I put it on, and 10 minutes later, I'm like, "Get me out of this." How did I? I used to wear it every day.
Every day.
I was a psycho. Again, the conclusion. I was a psychopath.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. I think there's an episode of New Girl where Zoe Deschanel calls her bra a boob prison,
Yeah,
and that is for sure what it is when it's underwire.
it's so uncomfortable.
Also, when you said you saved your underwire, I was picturing like a bowl with just the wire.
Just the wires in it.
So
Just for stabbing mostly. I'm just
I
trying to
just
find.
save them and then, tape them on when I'm ready for a special occasion.
Yeah, just a whole row of them all the way up.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make a corset of old underwire. That's mostly just makes me look like a crab. Is what I feel like would happen.
Well, you are a Cancer.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, I guess it works.
Yeah.
Pinchers. I don't know if I've mentioned I do have hands. Instead of hands, I have pinchers. So it does work on multiple levels. A hard shell,
Hard shell, great in butter.
lots of legs. It's apt.
Also, the third item on this list. Are you still there, listener? Please don't leave us.
Please don't leave us.
Keep your to-do list brief. It
Oh.
says using big bold letters, make a list of no more than 5 tasks on an index card, listing any additional items on the back of the card.
That's too specific for me.
I agree, and that doesn't work for me because, like, I break down, like, on the weekends I'll make a to-do list of chores, but, like, I'll have, like, do laundry and then, like, sub-bullets under that where it's, like, wash laundry, put laundry in dryer, fold laundry,
Yep.
put folded laundry in dresser, hang up closet laundry. Like,
Yep.
I have very separate tasks, and then I cross them off as I do them.
I
Because
add
it makes me feel way more accomplished.
100%. And I know I'm definitely like, it's one of the little things I do to trick myself. I definitely will make a to-do list and I will put extra things on it that either don't need to be on there or maybe are definitely covered with another topic. But the thought of 5, I've never had a to-do list that only had 5 items.
My to-do list has 5 items if I'm just listing cases that I need to finish at work.
Or like really quick before I leave, these are the few things I need to get done. But really 9 times out of 10.
Yeah,
I'm doing
send
a to-do
email to
list.
this person,
Right.
follow up with HR about health insurance.
Yeah.
Like, those things could be my 5 to-do list, but...
Yeah. I definitely, that's too, that doesn't work for me.
I understand the idea of not just listing. I guess if you're just starting to get organized,
Yeah,
maybe don't list everything all at once. But in that case, I would say, like, okay, I would get, like, a notepad and do, like, Monday through Friday and 5 things per day.
Right. Yeah.
That's what my therapist said to do. Like, once you finish your tasks for that one day, then you can fuck off and get distracted.
Which I think is good. I think that's a good...
Yeah.
And I usually will do that kind of for myself. Like, I just get this done, and then take a break and either do something else or go outside for a minute or refill your water or something.
Especially on the weekends when I'm doing chore things, it's like, okay, I can do these 3 things and then I can sit down.
Yep.
Because once I sit down, it's over.
Yes. Yeah, I have to make sure I've done, like, whatever I want to get done that day.
I can sit down, well, the thing is, so I can sit down, but my sit down I've accepted is a pretty substantial break. Like, I can't sit down in between, like, vacuuming and taking out the trash. Like, those, like, little mundane tasks.
Yeah, definitely.
That, like, I just need to keep trucking along and then I can sit down.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We're or game show. I don't know what to call that. Not an alarm, but a buzzer. We're gonna game show buzzer that one.
Yeah. Kind of going along with that are these next 2 tips. So the first one is fight hyperfocus by setting an alarm, or arrange for somebody reliable to call you at a specified time if you tend to lose yourself online for hours at a time or something. And then the other one is use a body double. Have you ever heard of that? Okay, so it's using, like, a friend or family member who, like, sits with you as, or, like, does it with you.
Oh, okay. Which is great, like, if you have kids and you're trying to get them into a routine or to be able to focus on one thing at a time or whatever it is. That's a great tool.
Which I think is very common for children with ADHD, the idea of having, like, a classroom helper sit with them. Creates that body double thing where it's like, okay, remember we have to finish writing our times tables or whatever.
Right.
Although, so this says, like, basically your body double is supposed to create a productive atmosphere by sitting quietly and doing an unobtrusive task, like affixing stamps to envelopes or clipping recipes from a magazine.
What year was this written?
I don't know. Probably Julia Child wrote it. I don't know.
Clipping recipes.
Affixing stamps to envelopes? I can only say that
weird time warp
would happen once a year around Christmas time if I were sending out Christmas cards, and I don't really do that because I've got ADHD.
Because, things. We do, not every year, but some years I do them.
I feel like I will once I'm married.
Yeah.
Because then it's like...
I just don't always have my shit together that time of year. So, it's hit or miss. Like, most things that I intend to do every year. Maybe.
Okay.
I feel like I would find a body double distracting because I would be trying to start conversation.
Yeah, I think to me, that would really be helpful if it was a task that they could do with me. Like, I guess, like, folding laundry or painting a wall or something like that, where it's like...
I like doing that stuff. I prefer to do that stuff by myself, like cleaning.
Oh, I don't... Yeah, same. Like, I'll throw on a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Like, House Ankle High and just listen to it.
Perfect. Listen to us while you clean.
Yeah.
Or drive. Or work.
This next tip is keep extra medication on hand or write... Basically, like... Again, I don't... Let me see when this was written. If there's a date on this article.
1998.
No, April 15th, 2022.
That's wild. Cutting recipes out of magazines. That's just such a specific thing.
This will really blow your mind. This tip is, each time you fill a prescription, write in your planner the date you'll need to renew it. or set your computer or phone to issue a reminder alert on that date. Ask your pharmacist if he can call you to remind you when it's time to refill. Your renew date should be at least 1 week before the date on which you'll run out of medication. Folks, CVS does that for you.
CVS threatens me because I haven't shown up quickly enough to pick up my medication. We're only going to hold it for 5 more days.
That's what I did before I came here when you were like, closer to 2? And I was like, okay, I know what I'll do because I got a text from CVS threatening me.
Yeah, so times have changed since April 2022, apparently, and CVS has, or whatever pharmacy, I'm sure all the pharmacies are the same at this point. If anything, can I get fewer reminders because you're giving me so many that it's distracting me?
The one I got today was so passive-aggressive. It was like...
Are you going to pick it up, yes or no?
No, it's even better than that, actually. I'll read it to you. You're going to get so mad.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I appreciate pharmacy staff and filling my medication and giving me all my pills.
Yeah, we appreciate pharmacy staff, but the pharmacy AI is real pushy.
It's a lot.
This was like, hey, your prescription is ready for pickup at CVS Pharmacy. When do you plan to pick up your prescription? Reply 1, 2, or 3. 1, today. 2, tomorrow. 3, other. So I replied with 1, and they were like, great, we look forward to seeing you today.
No, that's
so intense. I do have a little, like, pill organizer, though.
Oh, yeah.
That I refill each week, and that does help me remember if I took my medication. Because I would definitely forget. I don't forget if I take my birth control because, that's labeled.
Yes.
But everything else, like, I've even been sitting at work because now I have a, like, instant release one that I take in the middle of the day. And that one, like, I've taken it, and I take it at, like, noon. And then, like, I've been sitting there, and I'm like, did I do that? Did I take that medication? Yeah. So I was like, oh.
Literally take it, swallow it. 2 seconds later, I'm like, oh. Am I thinking about this because I just took it or because I have to take it? And then I got distracted between when I thought about taking it and grabbed it and actually taking it. It's awful. I have a pill organizer, but then sometimes things go awry and I lose track a little bit, which it seems like it should be self-explanatory, and it is. But I still manage some weeks to have troubles. Or I took something late, or I have an ulcer, so I've been taking, like, extra medication for that. So sometimes when I'm doubling up, then I'm like, did I take one earlier that I didn't take out of this? And then the second one, instead of just doubling it up and putting it in the thing, I'm not setting myself up for success. What's the next item on this list?
Build socializing into your schedule.
Oh. Yeah, if anything, my problem on every report card was I had socializing on my agenda every day. And my teachers didn't like it.
All right, so the suggestions under building socialization into your schedule.
Join a phone tree.
It says that way your desires to meet new people, have interesting conversations, and keep up with friends are taken care of automatically. Now, I have no problem with saying, like, oh, every month let's the 4 of us get together and try, like, a new restaurant in the area.
Right.
Fine. But the suggestions are take a class, join a book club or a lecture series, or start a supper club, which...
Supper club?
I'm guessing the thing I just described. But what I read was, or start a stripper club, which I feel like is slightly different. You're definitely going to meet people.
Exercise, definitely socializing, working on your boundaries.
What boundaries?
Some boundaries. Yeah, that's not exactly what I was thinking, but I guess that is, just another path to get more socialization.
I don't want it.
Yeah, I'm not cut out for that path.
I just said I'm perfectly happy sitting at home.
That's like the opposite. That's sitting at home and, like, doing the most. No, thank you.
The next one is join an ADHD support group.
I guess that's what this is.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Bars Ankle High. Your ADHD
yeah, just listen to just listen to the Bars Ankle High, and Join our Patreon. That can be
Join
your
our
ADHD
Patreon.
support group.
Interact with us on whatever social media platform, excluding TikTok and Twitter, because we're afraid of it. And, you know, we'll help each other through this.
These next two I know that we each do. Carry a colorful wallet and buy experiences, not objects.
Oh, yeah.
You definitely do the experiences thing,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I am trying to generally buy less or buy something that's going to be multifunctional.
Yeah.
Which I've also realized it puts me in a position where I don't constantly, because I feel like it is also an ADHD thing where, you know, an event will come up and I'm like, oh, I need to get this for this. And I panic that I don't have something that I need for this. So it's really cut down on that panicky feeling leading up to having to go somewhere and do something. I feel like it keeps me a little bit more even because I'm like, oh, I've got this little work for this. And
Yeah. That being said, these next two tips I fucking love. The first one is stop. It says stop agonizing over insignificant items. So, I'll just read the whole bullet point. What to do with greeting cards you've received, batteries of dubious power, unidentified CDs, orphaned screws, and so on.
oh,
Toss them into a, quote, ripening drawer. Once the drawer is full, quickly sort through it, use what you can, and discard the rest, and then start the process anew.
oh, I would say that's roughly how we do ours. How I like keep our. What
I
was
don't
it
do that
called?
at all. They call it a ripening drawer.
I don't love that. I mean,
Well,
I
it's
call it a
like
junk
for when
drawer.
your cervix is ready and stuff, you know. It's nice and ripe.
Ripening. Not a fan of that phrasing, that naming. But yeah, I would say like I'll go through and organize it and get rid of a bunch of stuff, and then we'll fill up again. I organize it, get rid of a bunch of stuff.
I need to do that, but I love this idea. And going along with that, it says get a clutter companion, which is similar, I guess, to a chia pet.
Really, can't wait to hear how.
It's a non-judgmental friend who will help you get rid of all the stuff that's cluttering up your house.
A chia Cut to one of your cats with like a wig on.
It's the
now
Bob
you need
Ross
to give
wig.
me positive reinforcement when I do this. Yeah. Sophie be like, what if I show you my butthole instead?
Consider if I just step onto your lymph nodes in your armpits. How nice would that feel?
What if I show you my butthole, step on you, and then knock the things that you're organizing off the counter? How would you feel about that?
Yeah. Basically, it's like find somebody to Marie Kondo with you.
Yeah.
But it also says it has like sorting your clutter into 4 piles: keep, toss, donate, and age. I feel like those first 3 are pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, what
Keep, toss, and
is
donate.
aging the ripening drawer?
Age, it's similar to the ripening drawer. Put them into a box marked with the date 3 months in advance, so 3 months from now.
Mm-hmm.
And then note that date on your calendar. And when that date rolls around, give those items another look, and then put them in the keep, toss, or donate thing. Like, do that whole process again.
Okay.
So, which I feel like...
Lay away.
Yeah, I do that a lot where I'm like, okay, I feel like I might use this again, but I'm not totally sure if I'm going to get rid of it. So then I usually do like spring cleaning once a year, but I do like the idea of doing it quarterly.
Yes, I would say probably seasonally I'm going through my closet and I'm like, because I'll like, you know, buy a couple items each season. And then I'm like, all right, what's getting the cut?
Yeah.
And I do not that organized, but I put them into a pile that's of things in limbo. And then I start thinking of who might like these, who might these work for, who can I give these to, or am I going to sell them, or...
Right.
And by sell, I mean put them in a pile of things that I mean to sell and then not doing it for 6 months and then stressing myself out.
Yeah, as much as I'd like to say I would totally just put it on Poshmark, I just donate
It's the
most
worst.
things.
Yeah, that's the worst.
I just can't.
I usually wind up giving them to people because I'm like, I don't want to go through the trouble of listing it. It's so
I would rather just donate it and like whoever is thrifting can enjoy it, because it's just one more thing for me to stay organized about. And then the questions you get on Poshmark are like, what are the measurements? I don't freaking know. Like, I need to bust out my freaking tape measure so that
That's
you
what I
can...
do. Yeah.
It's so irritating.
I literally will just lay it down with the tape measure and take a picture of it and add it to the listing and tell them it's there. And I don't write the measurements down because it's just annoying. It is annoying.
Yeah. I did some postings where I had, like, gone on to that brand's website and downloaded their sizing guide and still got those
Right.
questions. And I was
Yes.
like,
Use your eyeballs.
yeah, you people are the worst. Anyway. Um,
Poshmark sponsor us.
Garrett loves Poshmark.
I do. I do sell like bigger ticket items. I'm notorious for like buying something and then missing the return or wearing them one time, like shoes one time, and then I can't return them. So I'm big on listing like pricier items on Poshmark. That I think it's worth it. Because then you get a bunch of credit, and then I can like buy, like I bought a pair of Ray-Bans and I didn't have to pay for them because I had all these credits. So I think it's worth it for that, for like bigger ticket or items where you like know the name of the... This is completely irrelevant. I'm sorry, go ahead. What's the next one? Stay tuned for my next podcast about Poshmark selling techniques. Oh my god.
These next two are more about like, I guess like stopping yourself from keeping all your mail.
Oh,
So
mail.
fight
Yes.
financial statement overload. Like, do you really need to keep monthly account statements? Ask your accountant if you can get by with keeping only quarterly or annual statements and toss the rest. I don't know. Just opt into electronic statements, guys. Like, you delete them just the same. So what's the difference?
I'm still not going to read them, but
Yeah.
cool.
So there are some things, but
Again, I'll check in like quarterly.
I don't even do that.
I'm not.
I don't. The only time I'm looking through a bank statement is if there's a discrepancy that I can't immediately recall what I spent money on or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, like I'll skim my credit card statement, like retirement accounts. I'll look at a couple times a year, but that's about it.
I really just look at it from like a pure curiosity standpoint. Like if I'm bored one day, like,
I go, huh.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I look, and then it immediately leaves my brain, and I remember nothing.
Yeah. This one says, don't let unread magazines pile up, and it has like a whole... It's basically a ripening drawer situation.
And like, who's getting that many magazines? Like, I get catalogs sometimes, but...
I don't... For the most part, I don't save any of my mail, ever.
Good for you.
Yeah, I just immediately throw it out.
Ours accumulates. I
check to make sure it's not like a new credit card for one that's expired or, whatever. Like, I just kind of like open the end and peek in to see if it's relevant. And if it's not relevant, I just toss it.
Really?
Or a lot of times I bring it into work and put it in the shred bin so that I don't have to worry about shredding it.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like
I might get fired for doing that one day, but...
What kills me, you know what I have a tendency to really like hang on to that I just can't help myself, is when you get like coupons in the mail. Like, oh, save 20% at Waft.
Yeah.
And they send it to you weeks ahead of time. So then by the time I remember, it's well expired.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably one of my toxic things, is hanging on to it. There's certain clutter I just have a really hard time with.
I have those things like that. I'm pretty sure I've got a few of those on my fridge right now. Because I'll hang it up and be like, okay, I'll keep it here so I don't lose it.
Yeah.
And I don't lose it. So, 50% of the task
I don't
is done.
lose it, and I don't use it.
Yeah. Is it true if you don't use it, you lose it?
Yes. With coupons? Yes. 100% of the time.
It says make use of wasted minutes. Like in 5 minutes, you can empty the dishwasher or write an email that you've been putting off. While you wait for your laundry to dry, you can mate socks and gather clothes for dry cleaning.
Which is what we were talking about before. Like,
yes,
trying to maximize time. I definitely do. I also make to-do lists with timestamps for myself.
Oh, okay.
Which I'll definitely talk more about too when we do. We're going to do an episode on that procrastination. That's one of the tools that I use. Mm-hmm. Timestamps for things, because...
The next one is create a launch pad near the front door, like, it's basically like a hallway, like hooks for your coats and
Mm-hmm.
book bags, or like a cubby to throw all your shit in and your
Right.
keys on. I have that next to my door at my apartment that holds my keys, my bag of quarters for laundry, sunglasses, and like something else there. Oh, I think a key to our cave house.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always next to the door. If my keys aren't there, I get really mad at myself
Ugh.
because then I don't find them right away.
Especially like in cars with keyless entry. I can totally leave without my. I've locked myself out. 6 o'clock in the morning, I've locked myself out of the house because I thought my keys were in my backpack when I left, and they weren't. And I get in my car and it's like beep beep. Oh,
That sucks. I have not locked myself out of my apartment. My door knob broke that time, so I got locked out, but it wasn't my fault. It was just a broken door.
it wasn't my fault, right? Right, guys.
Next, we have simplify your wardrobe, and this is kind of saying like in the spring and summer, coordinate all your clothing around 2 colors plus white, and in the fall and winter, coordinate all your clothing around 2 other colors plus black. So you'll have like fewer outfits to be overwhelmed by or choose from, and then you'll have also more options to like mix and match if they're all kind of the same palette. Which you definitely do. I don't do. I am
100%.
a like Jackson Pollock painting of color.
Mine's recent. I didn't used to do that. I would just, if I saw a black sweater that I liked, I would just buy the black sweater, and then I would get home and be like, I have 3 black sweaters that are pretty close to this. So I've definitely tried to make sure that I have all my bases covered with like neutrals. But it does make it much easier because I never feel like I have nothing to wear. Like I can always put something together that works.
Yeah.
Doing that technique, which is like, I mean, I guess like kind of what I do.
Yeah. I like solids a lot. I think partly for that reason, because then if I have something that is lightly patterned, then I always have a solid shirt or a solid pants to go with it.
Yeah, there's like one interest piece.
Yeah, but I am heavy on the colors.
I love color, but I'm always concerned about the utility that I'll have out of something.
Yeah. I used to know someone who is also an attorney, and they only wear black and gray. Like,
I mean, don't get me wrong, a couple of my favorites.
it is, every time I saw her, she was only in black and gray or white. It was very strange.
Yeah.
Just from a, like, I personally hated it. Because, like, to like, it's fine to do that as, like, your base, but, like, I just feel like I would need, like, a scarf or a statement necklace or something to, like, break it up so that I don't look like I'm about to interrogate somebody in Guantanamo Bay or audit somebody from their taxes 6 years ago or something. So
Yeah, I do that with accessorizing. I will bring color or interest in with accessories, and then I do like neutrals. Again, this is like my Poshmark rant. I mean, not that anybody really cares that much when I'm dressing.
I do like that our logo is so colorful. If we are talking about how important neutrals are.
Neutrals are where it's at.
And then this
too, because like statement colors are trend based too. So like sometimes like, you know, you'll see this one color everywhere for a couple years, and then it immediately looks dated. So I think that's my concern. Is I'm always concerned something's gonna look dated quickly. Anyway,
I think more so at this point, I'm more concerned that like a cut of something is going to look super dated.
Too. Yeah.
Especially if I watch like an old show and everybody's wearing those baby doll tops that were so hot in 2006.
Or the super tight camisole with like super flared jeans.
Yes.
And a long camisole. Like it went
long
down.
cami and then a polo shirt over it.
Yes. Or like one of those Henleys, like with the buttons open, that like Abercrombie was doing like hardcore for a while, like in high school. That's what everybody was wearing. With like those like pearl layered necklaces. Oh man. And I never had this is gonna sound ridiculous, I never had like the boobs for it. So feel like everybody I went to high school with had like, mine were always just like mushed. So there was no like definition. So I feel like you had to have like
I think
definition to wear those.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with that, but I do feel the girls who quote unquote could get away with that look, I think in high school were not as blessed in the chesticle region as we are.
Yeah.
So they were able to wear a push-up bra and actually get the desired effect from it, whereas if I wear a push-up bra, nothing is changed.
No.
It just adds more to the bottom of my boob because that part of the bra is bigger.
Oh yeah, it just made it where then I was like, I had like 4 boobs instead of 2 because they were like pushed out of the top.
Right.
And then I would walk and I could feel them moving. So then I was like self-conscious. Oh, and like a foot of cleavage. It was just the worst.
And like, I feel like realistically, if I wanted a push-up bra to really give me that effect, quote unquote, I needed to like tighten the straps so much that it was like that scene in Titanic where her mother is tightening her corset and she can't breathe. Like, that's how it felt.
Awful.
All right. Last few tips on this list. Similar to the to-do list, it's saying take one project on at a time, which goes back to our last episode.
Yes, where we're talking about multitasking.
Yes. This is basically saying, like, list your to-do list in order of priority so that you can, and know that, like, okay, number 1 is my priority. I'm not going to do anything until I get number 1 down.
Right.
Whatever. So then it says use sticky notes, which I do all the time. I use sticky notes to make drafts of my to-do list because I feel like I need to get it on paper and then reorganize it in a way that I know I will get the tasks done.
Yep.
And then we already talked about this, but it's like pairing tasks. So, like do 2 small things in concert, like when you change your clocks when in the fall and spring, also change your smoke detector batteries or whatever.
I usually will think of things in terms of things I have to get done today and things I would like to get done today. Is usually like the 2 bins that my brain is like sorting things into when I'm making a list. Or like coming up with a plan, because I feel like anytime I need to focus, I have to have a game plan for myself. So it's like, all right, I need to take care of these things. I would really like to also take care of these things, but I may not get to. I have a notebook and I just flip through it and the number of like versions of a to-do list. And it's kind of funny to see the things that I keep carrying over that I've been avoiding that I don't want to take care of. Making reappearances on my list for weeks at a time.
Yeah.
I'm real good at that one.
Yeah, I do that a lot. And then finally, it's this topic is like money matters. Some things that we've already focused on, like just do online banking so that you get online statements and whatever.
Less mail.
Reduce the number of credit cards you have because if you have ADHD, then you also struggle with impulsivity, which we'll cover on a later episode. So having fewer credit cards can help you with spending less.
Definitely. And forgetting to make payments.
Yeah.
Because you just forget about the other, oh shit, I haven't opened that app in 3 weeks and...
Right. And you can get alerts either through the apps on your phone or you can set up like email alerts, which I have set up for all of mine. And so, just set those up. Like take advantage of those situations.
Paycheck is usually like submitting a timesheet reminds me that.
Oh man, I wish I could submit
makes me think
my timesheet when we get paid because I'm way better at knowing when I get paid.
I have a calendar alert for myself to submit my timesheet.
I'm okay with it. I just usually don't submit it on Wednesday. I'll submit it that Friday or something.
Yeah, we have like a period of time.
Yeah, my supervisors only had to email me once to be like, "Hey, dummy." And then this tip, I mean, for purposes of like survivalist is not so bad. It says put Put several $100s in a waterproof plastic bag and place it somewhere safe but easy to locate, like maybe your freezer. That way you won't be caught empty-handed if a storm, power outage, or other natural or man-made disaster makes it impossible to use ATMs. For more on preparing for disaster, go to redcross.org. Garrett's face. Yeah.
This list was definitely written by somebody who has ADHD. Because we went from, here's some helpful ways to help with disorganization associated with ADHD. We covered trimming recipes for magazines, putting stamps on your mail, and a bug out bag in case a natural disaster hits.
Make sure you have cash, because that's what's going to happen when a man-made disaster hits your area.
When the nuclear holocaust eventually hits us.
You're going to need cash monies, hoes.
Forget cash, because, in the case of, something like that happening, cash is going to be relevant.
See, but that brings me back to my stripper club. You're going to want that marketable skill.
That's true.
Barter for,
That's true.
pasteurized milk.
Was that on Schitt's Creek where they were driving with the raw milk?
The raw milk.
That was a good one.
Will be $300. What? How am I supposed to know how much a pint is? God.
Also, please don't sue us Schitt's Creek. That was a tongue twister.
I don't think they will.
Right?
Yeah, there's that optimism again.
Katie being very confident they won't.
It's fine.
And me getting immediately concerned.
Knock on the door.
Yeah. Without missing a second, you're being sued. You've been served.
So yeah, that's disorganization and ADHD. I'm definitely I'm working on it. I'm trying to get better.
It's hard. I mean, I think as a kid, I think when my symptoms probably first started, so probably, I was when I think back, probably third-ish grade, second or third grade, I was wildly disorganized, until high school, I would say. And then high school, I really became, but my anxiety also got really bad. So I think I just swung the other direction. I went from being super, I was one of those kids, you would put books in your desk and all of the papers that were loose in my desk would just get shoved to the back in a mess.
I didn't have that issue.
I was a very...
Which is interesting,
messy
considering
bedroom.
how I live now.
Always had a messy bedroom.
I've always had a messy bedroom, and my mother told me that she didn't care if I cleaned it because I would eventually have people over and get embarrassed at the thought of them seeing my messy bedroom. Yeah, and it still does. Every time PK, we've been together for over a year, and every time he comes over and my apartment's not clean, I'm like, I'm sorry, it's not clean in here. And he's like, why do you think I'm here? I'm not here because of whether your apartment's clean.
You know what? Leaves.
I'm sick of it here.
It's too much this time. Yeah, I just got hyper organized in high school, hyper organized in college. And even at work, I'm extremely
organized. Meanwhile, my desk looks like a fucking bomb went off.
If I don't clean my desk, I left in kind of a rush on Thursday, and in the back of my mind, I'm I didn't really tidy it the way I wanted to. I have to come into a clean slate. And I really, before I get going, I have a whole list of things, which we'll cover in the next episode. And the organization component, and I know it's definitely linked to anxiety, but yeah, there are certain things I'm at with this podcast have been, okay, I just need to update my list. on my to-do list of things was update my to-do list. So as we're talking about, they're only put 5 things. I'm oh really? How about on my to-do list is to make a new to-do list?
Oh, I mean, I've had days where my to-do list includes eat breakfast.
Yes.
Do actual relevant tasks to my job. Eat lunch.
Yes.
Okay, look, I did 3 things today.
Look at me.
Look at me. High fives all around.
Go pee. Because that's always my issue. I get so into it. I get so into the groove. I'm I bring my head up and I'm oh.
And I'll have that moment where I'm oh, I really got to pee. And then I forget because I get distracted by doing a task. An actual task, not distracted by scrolling Instagram or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then I am hobbling to the bathroom because I have to pee so
I'm like sweating, like, oh my God, I waited too long.
Yeah.
I waited too long.
Like barely making it as I'm like sitting down, like, oh man, whew.
That was close, sweating. Actually, I'm almost doing that right now, thinking to myself, like, man, I really gotta pee. Really gotta pee.
If you have felt that way while listening to this podcast, take a break.
Feel free. You can pause us. Finish the episode
Or bring
later.
us with you to the bathroom. Let everybody else at work in your public restroom listen along.
Yeah.
Put us on speakerphone. We don't mind.
I mind. Katie may not mind. I don't want to be on speakerphone. I'm still getting over the phobia of listening to my own voice, so don't put me in stereo in a public restroom.
The acoustics are probably great.
All I could think was all the reflective surfaces that are just going to be, like, hitting that right back. Don't do that. Katie's fine with it. Use earbuds.
Yeah, I mean, use earbuds, but, you know.
She rolled her eyes. She said, use earbuds, and then rolled her eyes.
I mean, I use earbuds too, but, you know.
Like,
you can take us to the bathroom with you. We'll keep you company.
Yeah. We will keep you company. You remember being a little kid, and somebody would be like, oh, I have to pee, and everybody would start doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't happen to me too often, or if it did, again, it's that thing where I'm just so fucking aloof.
Yeah. I had a very long bus ride.
If you went to high school with me and you have memories of me being totally unaware of what was going on around us, please email us and tell us the story of me being a fucking weirdo.
Oh, yeah. I definitely...
Guaranteed I don't remember.
Yeah, I definitely was oblivious to a lot of things happening around me.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like it at the time. Hindsight, on the other hand. As I'm just like...
Hindsight keeps me up at night. That's what that is.
How's your anxiety going?
It's like Sleepless in Seattle was actually just hindsight.
Yeah.
Giving people ulcers and
yeah,
depression, mostly.
Yeah. Turns out, the dark twist, outside of the rom-com.
Yeah, that's what really happened at the top of the Eiffel Tower. Or not the Eiffel Tower.
Space Needle? Was it the Space Needle?
I think it was the Empire State Building.
Isn't it Sleepless in Seattle?
That's what I just said. Sleepless in Seattle.
But then you said the Empire State Building.
No, I said the Eiffel Tower.
You said that, and then didn't you say the Empire State Building?
Yes.
But isn't it the Space Needle?
This is ridiculous. People are going to
unclear.
Tune out.
We're gonna save that for our producer, us, to look up later. We'll give you an update when we figure out where the peak of the movie was, the finale of the movie.
Probably not the Eiffel Tower, but we'll report back.
We'll let you know. Subscribe to our Patreon to find out. To be continued.
Well, we hope you guys enjoyed our second episode. We sure did.
Yeah, that was fun. Thank you for tuning in.
Make sure that you subscribe wherever you're listening and leave us a 5-star review wherever you can. If you can't on your current listening service, if you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, that's the best way to help us grow.
We would love it.
If you want to keep hearing this sort of bullshit every week.
Something today.
Whee!
Some real tangents.
And, yeah, we will see you guys in the next episode. Until then.
We will see you next week. Remember, post that stuff that's been sitting in your pile on Poshmark, and be kind.
Because the bar is ankle high. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be here next Thursday with a brand new episode to delight your brain juices. Until then, the best way to support us is to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and like and subscribe wherever you listen. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Bar is Ankle High. And if you want to help us grow the podcast even more, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/thebarisAnkleHigh. Patreons get exclusive Patreon-only episodes, monthly horoscopes written by yours truly, and access to our secret members-only Facebook group, as well as added to our close friends list on Instagram. We have a lot of fun over there, and we would love for you to join us. Until next week, remember to be kind to yourself, because the bar is ankle high.